thanks for joining me here in the attic. So pull up a chair, grab your favorite beverage, and we'll get to crafting and memory keeping. Welcome to day 25 of the Magical Fairy collaboration of Fairy Wings and Forgotten Things. This is a collaboration I am hosting over in my Facebook group. All the information is down in the description box. You have a few days left to join in and be entered into prizes at the end of the month. So if you want to go over there and check that out. We are on day 25, so be sure to go over and check out Peach Domino. Nate will be your official fairy guide for today, and he will be having your official fairy token and prompt for the day. For Professor Fernscribe, she will be heading to see the river nymphs and learning more about the snail shell. So let's see what our prompt has to say about snail shell. Let's see here. Snail shell. Use something that's spiral. Alright, I'm going to clear this stuff off my desk and we'll get to crafting. For my something spiral, I found these in my stash. They're little spiral paper clips that I want to work out a way to use those on this page. And for the river nymphs, I wanted to create kind of a background of what I thought reeds and things would look like. So I've grabbed a couple of textured papers out of my stash. This is a mulberry paper and that same crepe paper that I used the other day for the flowers. I think I'm going to try to tint that and use that to create some reeds and background on this page. I'm going to be making a corner tuck up here in this left hand corner. I think I'm going to sew this together so that it fits right on the corner of this page. I'll do that on my sewing machine and I'll come back and show you that. And then once I get that done, we'll start putting the page together. The first thing I want to do, I think, is go ahead and tint this crepe paper. I think I'm going to be doing that with peeled paint and maybe a couple of other inks. I'm going to grab out and let's see what we get. I'm going to just play around with some colors and some different techniques to try to just get some variation to this when I'm doing the color. I'm going to start out by just doing some ink on my mat here. And then I'm going to add some water. And the ink I picked to start with is peeled paint. Let's just see what we get here. Not going to get the same look you would get using this technique on regular paper because it's going to flow differently on this crepe paper. But I want to grab my heat tool and dry this in between the layers and just see what we come up with. So I'm going to add some music and let's play with color. playing around with that ink, I got some really cool things. I'm really happy with how this turned out. With that crepe paper, I don't know if you can see the shine on that on camera, but I dried in between each layer of ink. I did use the evergreen bough, some vintage photo, peeled paint, and forest moss. I came back in and just painted a little bit with the really dark mica stain of the specimen here to get this. I didn't want to do the technique I was using with the rest of the ink pads because I didn't want that dark color all over everything. I just wanted to hit some highlights. And then at the very end, I came back and sprayed the whole thing with the Distress Spritz peeled paint and got this cool shimmer effect over the whole thing. I'm really happy with how that turned out. For the overspray that I had extra left over, I came back in and just took some scrap paper that was on my table and picked that up, and I think this gives a very, to me, mossy, swampy look to it, which I think would be what you would find where the river nymphs live, so I'll probably use this as some background. And so I'm just going to kind of do some creative play here and see what we can come up with, building some clusters and building this page out. I did create the little corner tuck here out of those two pieces. I just cut 2 triangles and then sewed them together, and then this is going to fit right over the corner of my page just like that. And it'll show on that side, but I'm leaving that side blank because it's mainly for this side here. And let's see what we want to do. I'm going to slide my card over a little bit. And I want to just build some background here. I want to make what I feel like would be the reeds and these cattails and things you would see at the river, which is why I was drawn to this crepe paper, because I think I can tear this into strips and make it look kind of like the reeds on the page. So I'm going to do some tearing here and just try to create a scene here for these river nymphs. So I'm going to add some music and we'll come back and see what I've got with that. Starting to get this laid out, I want to make sure I'm including that spiral element, so I think I want to add that as like a paper clip right to the back here. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this on and let this be drying while I lay out the rest of the page. So I'm just going to glue this down a little bit with some glossy accents just over that section of the paper clip and let that be drying. I'll end up gluing the whole thing down to my page, but I want to make sure that that paper clip gets glued well to this label. So I'm going to set that aside. I'm probably going to put him in here as a tuck, but I think I want to see if I can back this with that card that I made with that extra Distress Spritz. So I think I want to glue this on here and then cut off that extra. I just tore my strips of that crepe paper and laid it down there. I haven't exactly decided yet how I'm going to attach that. working through that in my mind. Sometimes this creative process goes really quickly, and other times it takes you a while to think about what you want to do and how you want to make things work, and regroup when things don't work quite like you thought they were going to. So don't get discouraged if you're doing something and it's not working quite like you wanted it to. Sometimes I have been known to set things aside and come back to it later after I've had time to walk away for a little bit. Sometimes that'll clear your mind and you'll think of things you wouldn't have thought of if you just sat there and kept staring at it. I hope everybody has been digging into their stash to create things for this project or any project you're working on. I'm going to ink this up with the vintage photo. That is one of the things I have been enjoying, is really digging in and seeing what I can come up with things just from my stash and this kit's from the collaboration. It's made me try to think out of the box. And trying to come up with 30 different things has really stretched my creativity. Trying to come up with new ideas that I haven't already done in the journal. Sometimes I think I've been successful, other times I may have repeated some. And he's going to go right there along with that clip. I think my journal card is also going to get tucked right up into here, and then he's going to go right there. So I feel like I need something right here. Let's think about that a little bit. Got this going on here. Wonder if I can create something up here with this, like a cluster. Let me see what else I've got with the kit that went with the river nymphs and come back. I grabbed a couple of things. I got one of the journaling cards. I think this was my freebie from week 1 that's got the seashells on it. I also grabbed a couple of these little charms that are flat, so they won't add too much bulk to my thing. One says seen and noted, and the other says in every walk with nature, one receives far more than it seeks. I thought both of those went really well with the idea of this journal. I also printed the page that came with this freebie and just did a little paper tearing here because I want to build a cluster right here. And I grabbed some more of that netting that I've been using on my pages throughout the book, and I thought it would look good here to tie these reeds together down at the bottom and still be something I thought the river nymphs might have, which would be like fishing netting kind of thing. So I'm going to glue that down, but I want to build my cluster here. And I think what I want to do is do a little bit of paper tearing with this and maybe some backing with some of this to create a cluster here. So let's see how I might be able to do that. Don't know how big I want it. Let's see. I think maybe kind of like that. And just tear this right here. I think I might add, I've got these other spiral clips that I think I'm going to end up gluing down, but I went ahead and took my jewelry pliers and made like a bend in this so it would fit over that hole to where it would look like it's hooked into that paper clip, but not necessarily actually be hooked. And I could just glue that, or actually, let's see, I could do it like that, and then have that like that. That would be kind of cool. Like that. Trying to decide, I think I want to turn this to where it's going horizontal instead of vertical. So I want to overlap it, but I don't want it going down in. I think I want to overlap this part. And I think I'm going to maybe add a little bit of this right behind it. Let me think. Here's where the thought process just comes in, and it takes me a while to just kind of see it in my mind what I want the page to look like. Actually, let me grab the other piece of this and see if I can create something here. Let me see, let me cut this out. And sometimes when I'm doing this, I'll do things, lay it down, see how it looks. If I like it, I'll use it. If I don't, I put it to the side because I may use it for something else later on. Unless I've just totally changed it to where I don't think I could use it for anything else. I won't scrap a piece I don't use. But I just may decide I don't like it the way I had it. Gotta remember that this is gonna go into the book. I think I'm just gonna cut this label out. Yeah. Okay. So I think what I want to do here is I'm going to make my cluster here, but I think I want to cut that out, make it smaller. And have that like that. And I think I want to do a paper clip like that and tuck that in there. Let's see how this is going to look. I like that. Alright, I think I'm going to speed this up, ink everything up, and go ahead and glue it down. But you see the process that I have created this with, and then we'll come back and do our journal cards. Alright, I've got the page all completed. I did add a little bit of that netting right here and to this cluster over here to the left to try to tie everything together. This will tuck right into the spiral here. And then my information card here. So I'm going to go ahead and ink that up with the vintage photo. And we'll stamp our day and see what Professor Fernscribe found out today while she was visiting the river nymphs. Okay, I want to grab the peeled paint to do the day 25 stamp. There we go. Alright, let's see what Professor Fernscribe has to tell us today. Day 25, World of the River Nymphs, the Snail Shell. Environmental notes: a clear river winding through green valleys, water bright and musical, banks rich with reeds, willows trailing into current. Sunlight dapples stones beneath the surface. Cultural observations: the river nymphs are luminous figures who move with water's flow, hair glistening like wet reeds. They sing constantly, weaving melodies into currents, guiding fish and calming storms. Society fluid and unbound without visible hierarchy. Artifact notes: the snail shell is spiral, opalescent, coin-sized. When held to the ear, it echoes not sea but river song, voices of nymphs in chorus, hypothesis, portable memory of current, carrying living music of the river. Narrative encounter: the nymph with eyes like polished stones pressed a shell into my palm as I waded into the stream. When I raised it to my ear, I heard her voice woven with others, not words but song, endless and flowing. The shell pulsed in rhythm with the current, a river captured, preserved in spiral form. And so that is our day 25. All complete. That leaves us 5 more days left before the end of our Fairy Wings and Forgotten Things. So be sure to hit the subscription button and the notification bell so you'll be notified anytime I put up new content, and come back and join me tomorrow as we find where Professor Fernscribe heads out for day 26. So until next time, y'all take care.